Hi, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to tune into our Hospitality Design Forecast webinar today. I am Shay Odell Scott, the Trend Forecaster here at CID, and I am here with Alana Call.
Oh, yeah, I just got married, so that's my new last name. It's very strange.
I was really proud that I got it right.
Yes, and I am the Assistant Creative Director and Storyteller here at CID, so super excited to kind of get to go through this.
Thanks, Alana. Okay, so I'm going to click through a little bit here. So our goal with our forecast is to support our own work and the work of the industry through supporting inspiring design that engages, elevates, and endures. Okay, so today we're going to walk through the below areas you can see here. This is a focused version of our forecast, so it's a focused version of our full forecast that we send out digitally. We've edited it for time for our webinar today. And you can check out our full version in the link that we sent out along with the invitation to this webinar, or reach out to us directly if you did not receive a link, and we will get that to you. Okay, so as we get started today with our webinar, we found this quote by Jeff Bezos, and we found it very inspiring. I'll read it to you. What's going to change in the next 10 years? That is a very interesting question. It's a very common one. I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years?
It's the first time I've ever heard that. I love that.
Yeah. So we found this really inspiring as a launching point for this edition of our forecast, and we really focused on what's not going to change in the next 10 years as we put together this volume.
I think that's an excellent segue just into a brief introduction of our first part, which is designing for your market. When we really thoughtfully design for our target market, for our end consumer, we are able to create a space that's kind of timeless and it's lasting and it's there. You know, it's purposeful design, so we're not part of that everything that is changing. We're kind of timeless. So the way we start to do this is we look through some of our lifestyle segments. So we kind of are looking beyond the idea of designing just for ages and really focusing on lifestyle and really very particular with hospitality, kind of your traveler. So our first segment is the solo traveler. And this is not anymore the vagabond college student taking their leap year through Europe. This is really spanning people of all age, all genders, all nationalities, that we're really starting to see people be excited and inspired to really get out and do things themselves. One of our coworkers and a dear friend went to, I think it was Mexico City. She was actually pregnant for this. But she went there and was able to kind of have this beautiful experience by herself. And it was just kind of inspiring and a really great way to kind of get back to you. So that kind of talks about that connection back to you and who you are. So the number one thing we're looking at when we're designing for that solo traveler is discovery, where people are allowed to have those moments that they're recalibrating with their self. So perhaps it's a makerspace where we have a local artisan come in and you can craft something and kind of keep that with you.
Thanks, Alana. So another item that comes to mind with the solo traveler segment is safety. So those traveling alone always have safety top of mind and may want to take extra precautions when it comes to both personal security and health. One example of this is just having a really secure internet connection so that you have cyber safety when you're traveling and as you're connecting all your devices to these shared networks.
My favorite is robot concierge delivery.
Yes.
My goal is really to just get an R2-D2 for the office.
I think we can make it happen someday soon.
So our next kind of top thing we're looking at is the idea of community, where a solo traveler, just because they're traveling by themselves doesn't mean they want to be alone all the time. They're still looking for ways to connect with the community and really have this great culture-rich adventure. So perhaps we start to think about, incorporating locally made products, some different artist pop-ups or things like that.
And then ethics. We're seeing this cultural shift towards the conscious traveler, and these people are wanting to support these purpose-driven brands. So we have a few items here listed, ways that you can that these brands can start to give back. But one thing that we really wanted to focus on is clearly articulating this messaging through the built environment and through the design. Our job as designers is to make sure that this message is clearly communicated to the traveler.
Yeah, our job is to create that experiential narrative. Some big, crazy words. And then our last, we're looking at work. As I'm sure quite a few of us are very familiar and very knowledgeable, but work from home is becoming so much more important, and the idea that we can be mobile while we're working as well is opening up so many more opportunities for people to travel where, you know, you may have been kind of strapped to your desk before. You have the ability to get out there and move a little bit more. So really being thoughtful and creating spaces for the worker in our hotels, hospitality.
Our next lifestyle segment is the business traveler. So you can read the stat here, but we're seeing business travel is just increasing and the spending is increasing. Interestingly, 92% of business travelers prefer hotels over home sharing and short-term rental. So we know this is a customer who we have in our hotels. So to look at them, the top 5 things that are most important to them, we have convenience, efficiency, connectivity, co-working, and comfort.
So a little bit just about the idea of convenience. When Shay was kind of introducing that page, the first thing I was thinking of was concierge and things that are super easy. When I'm traveling for business, the last thing I want to worry about is my shirt being wrinkled, or if I split a hem on my skirt and I have to resew it, anything like that. So being really thoughtful about having these things kind of pre-worked out. Efficiency, as we all know, time is money, and that's kind of how it goes. But we're looking at people who are travel pros. They're always kind of on the road. So by anticipating their needs and what they're going to want, we are really going to help to cater to a market that specifically is, we know this hotel brand XYZ because they are so easy. So maybe it's just you keep an online profile of things you like with the hotel brand, or even if it's an in-room workout equipment. And the last one is connectivity. So that's really kind of goes back to, all 3 of these really, and making sure that we have the ability for residents to stay connected to kind of everywhere they need to go.
And then co-working, we know that this is going to be something that's super important to people who are traveling on business. So this idea is that you are, as a business traveler, you are going between meetings and navigating different hotel check-in and check-out times. Your flight is getting changed or moved up or delayed. So this makes these third spaces so important for these business travelers as they find themselves in a state of flux in between spaces. So this can be things like airport nap pods.
Yes.
These recharge zones that have meditation pods, and then, of course, reservable conference rooms and meeting suites so that you can host events at the hotel that you're staying at. And then comfort. Traveling for work can be stressful, and little comforts can help these guests feel at ease. So even something like cocooning furniture that just gives the essence of relaxation and safety and a little bit of finding yourself a little home while you're out traveling on the road.
When I read offer real quick, I saw otter, and I was like, that would give me comfort.
Emotional support otter. Then we also looked at perennials. So this is parent millennials combined into the word perennials, kind of fun. And so this is all about designing to accommodate these millennial parents as they travel the world with their Gen Alpha children. These are kids born after 2010. 87% of these parents around the world include their children's opinion in vacation planning. So this is a huge percentage of just the way that the family structure is changing, and we're seeing these kids and these family units making these decisions really holistically all together. And then we have a stat here, too, that these travelers, these parents that have the Gen Alpha kids are taking more than 3 family trips a year. So we know that they're going to be out there. We know they're going to be out there traveling.
And it supports the idea that we're not leaving our kids at home anymore. They're coming with us.
Yep. So then as a way to really program for the whole family, we're looking at activity, exploration, influence, fun for the whole family, and safety. So number 1 being activity. Here we're talking about these kids are growing up with an iPad in hand. The spaces must be highly activated to really grab their attention. one thing that we love, an idea we love, is having a kid toy concierge. So the concierge comes to your room and has a few toy options, and the kids can try a different toy out each night of their stay. Something super fun like that.
I mean, my personal favorite is the dress-up closet.
Yes, how cool would it be to have a dress-up closet that is locally tied back into the area, so you're really exploring where you're at and your kids are playing dress-up. It's super fun.
And especially when you're looking at some of these areas that kids may not be excited about. I'm thinking when I was younger and I went to Plymouth Rock, and I was like, Ma, this does nothing for me. However, if I could have dressed up, maybe like a pilgrim, maybe I would have had a good time then.
Totally. I think you could rock a pilgrim look.
Yeah.
So then exploration is our second item here, and this is all about these Gen Alphas, just like their millennial parents, like to discover something unexpected. So we're talking about ways to create these opportunities for exploration through design and through programming. And one example that could be super fun here is the idea of dispersed gaming, some games that are kind of not quite hidden, but that you have to really search for to find throughout the property, and you feel like every time you happen upon it, you've discovered something new. Just an easy way to apply that kind of idea of exploration to a design space. And then influence. So we all know about influencers, and millennials have become kind of the first wave of influencers, and their alpha kids are growing up watching their parents, but also their peers directly as YouTube influencers. They want to be just as influential as they kind of start to build their own brand and their own personas. So we thought one idea here that could be really cool was to have a video recording booth, so you can pop in, record a little YouTube video about where you're at in your stay, and it really helps you build your brand. The hotel is getting a little bit of exposure through that medium too, and it could be a super fun kind of win-win in this world of influence.
Super cool. One of our coworkers, and I think she's on the call, so hey Alex, she actually has started her own kind of YouTube videos where she's exploring kind of different historic places, and this would be something really cool for some of these spots, and it really does kind of create something really memorable. So next we have fun for the whole family. Forced family fun is what the Gillens used to call it, not the Coffs. But we're really looking at collaborative space for everyone. So if we have a fitness center, let's make sure we have some cool kid treadmills. Or if we have a spa, could we do something that's kind of cool for the kids? Maybe it's just a little pedicure thing, but you know, we're not kind of sending our kids to their little teen clubs anymore. We're hanging out all together, which is super, super important. Next is safety, and this really solely ties back to when we're looking at traveling with our parents, with our children, because we want to make sure that we're really taking care of them. So perhaps we have digital monitoring in play spaces, so you can do a parent-registered app. Maybe your rooms are connected, voice assistant privacy, but really thinking kind of all the concerns that a parent may have when traveling with a child. Let's be preemptively answering that. All right, so our blended market, this kind of ties it all together. So the big thing we're looking at with our blended market is really what we globally have taken that we are designing for. And it is not necessarily products and things. It is so much more of experiences. And it ties really well, Shay, with what you were saying about the kind of the influence, because it's becoming part of a bigger narrative, part of something a little bit bigger. So kind of when we look to design for that, the first thing we're going to look at is experience. And these top three, especially as a storyteller, are very near and dear to my heart, and I could go on for hours, but I promise I won't. For experience, we're looking at unique experience. That's kind of the new status symbol, where we are hashtagging unique things that we're seeing in our rooms, or we're kind of sharing it wherever we can. So maybe we have our own like live radio show. If we're in like a cool location, we could host it there, and you could have special guests that are traveling, just something that's cool and super memorable. Next is story, really making that emotional connections to the guest. That's the way we inspire loyalty, and that's how we make really lasting projects so that they feel super, super local and nostalgic and really cool. And then authenticity. We want to make sure we're creating a space that feels like it belongs here, and it's not like we are putting a high-rise in Alaska. we want to be really thoughtful about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So that's kind of why the top one here is locally rooted design.
And then as we move on to look at well-being, we say here wellness travel is no longer niche. People expect to be able to continue their self-care routines while traveling. So we find that this is so true, and wellness has really evolved to be this more holistic well-being. And one way that we can really program for this is having classes and workshops from everything from rooftop yoga, which you see from time to time, to something that's a little bit more out there like sound healing, which we're starting to see pop up.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And then sustainability. So as we're in this age of flight shaming, we have 73% of travelers worldwide who intend to stay at least one green accommodation in the year ahead. How can we bring this messaging and this programming into our designs? So one way is through food waste management, which we will touch on a little bit later, but we're seeing this as a huge way, especially in hospitality, to really tie in this initiative of becoming more sustainable and less wasteful. So now as we move on to section 2, Elevate to Make It Unique, we are going to be discussing the top 5 macro trends that we're seeing in the hospitality industry. So I'll run through them quickly, but we are going to dive deeper into all 5 of these topics. So we have experiences, subscription economy, sustainability, well-being, and alternative spaces.
All right, experiences. So as it kind of says here, we all know this word, we all know we're hearing, we want our spaces to be experiential, but what does that actually mean, and how do we thoughtfully design that, and how do we create it so that it's something that's really, really tangible for people who are kind of staying with us. So Shay, if you want to kind of go forward one. This is just one of the ways, and as you'll see on here, there is a Taco Bell hotel pop-up, and yes, I did say Taco Bell. But these things are something that it does become part of an experience, and I can think of several huge influencers who were sharing pictures at the Taco Bell pop-up, and we're there, and we're at the pool and doing all sorts of things like that. So all of these really kind of lifestyle brands that people do associate something positive or something cool with, West Elm, Atari, Equinox, they're starting to kind of branch into the next phase and allowing people to experience what it would be like to kind of live and stay Atari.
Right, yeah, I love that, to really live in the brand. So here we're kind of evolving this idea of experiences. We love this idea of a really experiential stay on a luxury, well-designed train. And we're seeing that this could be so cool, such a holistic experience, and it can almost be seen as a sustainable alternative to planes and cruise ships. And we looked at one in particular, the Belmont Andean Explorer, and you can just see here, but it's beautifully designed. You're having this experience as you're traveling through the Andes, and it's a luxury experience. You have a spa on board. There's excursions and stops along the way. You have bar carts, and always 50 staff members on board, so you know that you're being taken care of. And we just love this idea of a new way to experience travel and a new way to experience stay.
The actual travel part of traveling is enjoyable. It's not the hassle of getting through airport security or anything like that. Part of the journey is all part of it, which is really something that is quite unique.
Here we're going to be looking at the subscription economy. So we've seen consumers become more and more comfortable with this model, and we love the idea of applying it to hospitality. You know, everybody has Netflix now, everybody has Amazon Prime, so how can we apply this idea to hospitality, to our industry?
I can talk about this really easily. Shay, you and I were actually staying in a hotel together, and the TV had Netflix. We were able to log into Netflix, watch The Office, and just chill out, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So, let's take that to the next level. So maybe it's an Uber ride pass and you get kind of a lower fee. Maybe it's a partnership with the Coca-Cola Club, or even if it's a clothing rental subscription service, that'd be super neat if you're traveling somewhere and you need some really cool outfit, or you need to kind of represent yourself in a cool way. Something kind of custom and curated could be fun. And of course, Disney Plus, we need to give everyone Baby Yoda. They need it.
Yeah.
Everyone needs access to Baby Yoda.
So we just love that these these, taking these cues from outside of our direct industry to see how they're applying the subscription model, we think is really inspiring, and I think we can find a way to make this work within hospitality.
I'm so here for it. Next is our RESORTPASS, and we were actually just talking to one of our coworkers from Barbados, and she had the best phrase for it, where it's more of like great for a staycation. So the way the RESORTPASS works is essentially you can purchase almost a ticket to a hotel, but only for the amenities. You don't have to spend something overnight, but it's a great way to help these spaces that may be underutilized to still be active and vibrant. The worst thing is, you know, you go to a hotel and you see an empty bar, or there's no one really in the pool, there's no activity. This really allows it so that local residents can come and experience it, and it becomes more of kind of a social hub versus kind of a exclusive,
Yep.
you can't come here.
Yes, absolutely. We found this Safara. They're an online booking platform, and they actually go ahead and curate a selection of hotels so that it takes a lot of the research out of the guest experience. Members pay an annual fee of $195, so this is an example of a subscription service. And then Safara converts up to 30% of these hidden fees applied by a lot of the booking websites into points. So members are able to then use these points towards future travel. So we just love that this subscription service is really being applied within our hospitality industry, and Safara is pretty new, so we're just excited to keep an eye on them and see how Safara and how other brands evolve this idea of subscription within hospitality, but really exciting to watch.
Absolutely. So next we've got sustainability. So there's some really key things to kind of talk about with sustainability, especially when we're looking at our macro trends. But sustainability is reaching new heights. People and brands are feeling almost shame and societal pressure to conform. My little sister was shaming me because I didn't pack my own straw and utensils with me when I went out, and I was the worst person in the world. So there's really, and she's probably right. I mean, you know, I could bring my own stuff, but that is kind of the trend we're seeing globally. So how are ways that we can respond to that and really be kind of at the forefront of it?
Totally. So many people are familiar with Greta Thunberg, but for those who are not, she's a teenage climate activist. She started a movement by skipping school and starting what is now referred to as the global climate strike. So we're seeing this idea of flight shaming becoming a mainstream idea, and we're seeing big brands like KLM and their Fly Responsibly ad really jump on board with this, and they're acknowledging this growing consumer discomfort around flying for people being concerned about their own carbon footprint. So this is an interesting trend to watch, just to see how this impacts the travel industry directly through flight, but also through other ways that the hospitality industry can try to be cleaner and more sustainable, as we're seeing consumers really ask for it.
It ties so well back to what you were saying before about the trains, too.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So we mentioned food waste earlier, but the FDA estimates that between 30 and 40% of the nation's food supply goes to waste.
Ouch.
Yeah, so it's a really big number, and hospitality, I think it's like restaurants, grocery, and hospitality are kind of like the big contributors to this, just because of the way that the system is built. But there are ways that this can be reduced. So by reducing the use of buffets, there are apps that can help you to sell otherwise thrown away food. There's food waste management software. There's gardening. There's ways to compost. This is a biodigester.
Oh my, I love it.
So it's kind of like it's kind of like a turbo composter, like industrial grade. It turns food scraps into fertilizer, and a lot of hotels actually have these. So that's something that I learned when doing this research, but it's actually pretty mainstream. So one example is this app called FLASHFOOD. It connects consumers with food nearing its sell-by date to purchase at a discounted rate. So it's food that has not gone bad yet, but it's getting close, and the grocers need to clear the shelves. And this app is connecting it with people who can buy it at a super discounted rate. So Meijer, which is a U.S., like Midwestern-based grocery store, is actually the first U.S. company to use this FLASHFOOD. And in their pilot program, they were able to reduce food waste by 10%, and they're now rolling it out to all of their stores nationally. So it's pretty cool to see this evolve.
That's amazing. So going back to kind of where I was originally with the sustainability, it's becoming something somewhat of clout, so to speak, and some sort of social status. And, you know, we are seeing all of our influencers kind of bragging, so to speak, about how they are so sustainable and how the different things that they're doing are really helping to impact the environment. Whether it's the zero waste influencers, as we see kind of at that bottom corner, or it's someone with like a Tesla, but really being thoughtful about how we can incorporate that into our design or our programming. You know, perhaps we have a Tesla, you know, a hotel Tesla, and you can, you know, that's kind of your little travel bud for the way around there. Or even, like you said, the vegan luxury handbags, if that's kind of how you do your dirty laundry or any sort of totes too, I think would be a really, really clever way to incorporate that.
Yeah, it's just showing that sustainability is becoming, like Alana said, a status symbol, and if your hotel has a sustainability story, that gives a little bit of, like Alana said, clout to the brand.
All right, so another one that ties really well into sustainability is almost, I guess I would say, human sustainability, where we're saying wellness is now more of a holistic well-being. It is not just the physical, it is everything that kind of goes into you as a person, and especially really looking at some of the mental healing. Like you said, the sound healing, that's something new that may sound really kind of far-fetched right now, but we really feel in a year or two it's going to be something that's quite common.
Totally agree. Here we're looking at the Inn at Moonlight Beach. This is the first hotel to receive the WELL certification, and they achieved this at the platinum level. So this WELL building standard certification, it rests upon 7 categories: air, water, nourishment, light, fitness, comfort, and mind. So this is a cool hotel to watch that has achieved this WELL certification, and we're looking forward to seeing how they evolve this and how they evolve their programming.
That'll be really exciting to see the programming. Sleep, I'm sure most of us don't know what this is, but I'm going to give you an introduction, is the foundation of well-being. So really, especially for like our business travelers and our solo travelers, having a room that is really thoughtfully designed for a really good sleep and a almost like a sanctuary is going to be very important. So whether it's kind of the EMF protection, whether we have high tea, perhaps we have some of the silk pillowcases or weighted blankets, anything that kind of goes in support of just making it more of a sanctuary.
Yeah, I love that. So, in search of the ultimate state of well-being, we're seeing people using science and technology and a little bit of experimentation to increase their overall performance, but also really to increase their longevity. We're seeing this word come up a lot as people are searching to, honestly, to live longer and to live better longer. We've been watching this biohacking trend for a while, and as these personal and wearable health data devices like your Fitbit and the Ring one, the Aura Ring, as all of these devices become more and more mainstream and more accessible, people have more access to this data and become more aware of this data that they're constantly collecting. We really see this whole biohacking movement just continuing to grow. And one hotel, the Beverly Hilton, has already jumped on board. They've partnered with Dave Asprey. He is the founder of Bulletproof, and they've opened this upgrade lab. So it's this whole biohacking facility. It's located within the hotel. There's more than 15 customized, super high-tech experiences for the brain and body. They have like virtual float tanks, compression therapy, red light therapy. You might think that this guy is receiving oxygen in order to perform better, but he's actually getting less oxygen so that his body has to work harder, so he can reduce like an hour workout to be only a few minutes, which is really crazy. But this is what they're doing in this whole biohacking movement.
It sounds cool too.
Yeah,
like it just sounds like a cool word that, looking at whatever market we may be in, like, oh, we're the biohack hotel.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's pretty cool.
And then kind of going back to the roots of wellness and well-being and humans, and making better spaces. We just wanted to give a brief spotlight to Starbucks and kind of what they're doing to build up the economy. They have an initiative this year to support the youth and economic development in diverse, undeserved areas of the country. So some of our areas where we may not have access to all sorts of, highest levels of education and so on and so forth, well, Starbucks is going into these communities and not only giving hiring specifically, where you're hiring from the neighborhood, local women, minority-owned businesses, perhaps we're curating items directly from them, and they're also offering classroom spaces, which is really amazing. So you're looking at in-store job training for young people, so ages 16 to 24, and they're not in school and they're not working. So it's really going to help to build the community and build everyone as a whole.
Our fifth macro trend for the day is to explore alternative spaces. So here we're looking into how home sharing is really growing up. Hotels are branching out. We have new hostel concepts popping up. We have enhanced co-working. We have micro spaces. It's a really exciting space to see what's going to happen. We know that this is a trend that's here to stay, and there's a lot of growth and kind of development to still really happen in this space. So it's exciting. So global gross bookings of short-term rental properties grew 7% in 2019 to a total of $115 billion. We're really tracking how these branded home managers like the Sonder and the Domio and the Stay Alfred, who can list their properties on these websites like Airbnb, are really professionalizing the whole Airbnb experience, the whole Airbnb/home sharing experience. This is sort of causing a divide between the truly host-run rentals and the professionally managed rentals. So it's going to be interesting to see how this divide continues to split this home sharing industry and what new brands will pop up out of it. But we're not seeing it going away, that's for sure. We're just seeing it really evolve, change, and I like the term that we've been using, which is grow up.
Absolutely. I think there's a pretty, I would say, well-known Airbnb out by the Joshua Tree, and it's almost designed like it's a hospitality space, and the way it's managed, it is specifically just designed so it is a cool experience. So that may be something to kind of explore as kind of the hospitality industry grows and changes. Looking at it more so for creating really unique experiences and how can we do that. Speaking of that, our new hostel. So here we are looking at not something that sounds kind of scary. Typically when we hear the word hostel, it is, what's going on? Oh no. But really what we're seeing here is this beautiful way for especially solo travelers to come together, to come meet with one another, and it really helps to enforce the cultural exploration and the awareness of the area, and it allows it to be kind of designed really thoughtfully. And when residents don't have to spend so much on a specific room, they have the ability to explore their area and really, co-work, events, bars, opportunities to socialize. It really is just going to help that kind of cultural immersion that I think we're really gearing for.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Another alternative to this kind of traditional hotel is this dispersed hotel. So these are hotels that exist in separate buildings. The rooms and amenities are spread throughout an overall destination. And the whole idea here is to encourage the guests to engage with their surroundings. And we're almost seeing this as maybe a way to compete directly with home sharing in the hotel, but it's spread out. It's not all in one building. You have to explore a little bit more. You have to interact with the locals a little bit more. It's an interesting idea, and it'll be cool to see how this evolves as well.
And it takes away, I think, sometimes people like the home sharing because it allows for privacy and a little bit more, family intimacy or whatever it may be, where this is still kind of run by a hotel, so you have all the conveniences of it, but you have a little bit more privacy and a little bit more space.
This idea of pods ties back to this idea of third spaces that we've been discussing. So these are for when you find yourself you're in between a plane, a train, a hotel, check-in or check-out time while you're traveling. And these pods can be used for anything from sleep to meditation, feeding your baby, even showering. And we think this could be a really cool and unique opportunity for a hotel to brand one of these pods and to really brand the whole pod experience.
I'm really here for the nap pod.
Yeah, it looks really cozy.
Yeah.
I would check out the
Nap
pod for sure.
Bed, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The dreamery, I love it.
Mhm.
And then our last kind of segment, as we kind of wind down, is endure and designing to last, and being really kind of thoughtful and predictive about where design is going to go. And, you know, like we kind of started at the beginning, is introducing the idea that a lot of things are going to change, and how can we control the things that aren't going to change, and making it timeless and kind of lasting through. So our top ways that we're looking at influence right now are fashion, the global aesthetic, color and material. Our one to watch, we're really kind of looking at who's a really cool designer, what are they doing, why are people enjoying them, and the idea of global movement. So, I want to go back real quick, Shay. There we go. So our first one, kind of fashion, and this is something I hold very near and dear to my heart because I really appreciate kind of what it offers. But fashion often leads to influences all other industries, especially color and material and lines and things like that. So what we're seeing right now, as we've got noted here, the 60s and 70s are coming back. So how can we apply this in a way that's really kind of timeless and cool, and different ways that we're doing you know, some of those thoughtful applications. As well, color and the way colors are mixed are really, really super inspiring too, where we see kind of in that upper right-hand corner, super clean, super crisp, super modern, but also a little bit edgy. And it's just super inspirational to see how we're mixing patterns and using materials in really unexpected ways. That's always incredibly inspirational.
Yeah.
And you know me and exaggerated silhouettes.
I know, I put a lot of these in here just for Alana, especially this one. But I especially love this idea. This is a complete leather dress, but you can see it's spring colors, it's a spring color palette, it's sleeveless. So
so unexpected.
Yeah, they're showing full leather dresses for spring. So this is just so inspiring for an application of a material or a fabric in a way that you would never try. This dress is giving us permission to do whatever we want.
Permission granted.
Yes.
Next is our global aesthetic. We're seeing kind of a really interesting rise in Japanese design, where it's really bringing in those warm neutrals, natural materials that really are working so seamlessly with where we were looking last year with the Scandinavian and Australian influences, and that overall theme of biophilic design. So we kind of love the idea of the wabi-sabi. I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I don't know. But it's a really neat Japanese philosophy that encourages us to embrace all things imperfect and perfect. And it helps us not to need everything new, and really reclaim things and not constantly replace them. Because sometimes things that have a little bit of a story, or I'm sure some of us have seen the wabi-sabi bowls that are kind of cracked, but there's a depth and there's a story and there's, oh, look, it survived all of this and it's still here. There's kind of confidence in that patina of time. So here we're seeing how that all kind of balances, and we're seeing those really clean, modern, streamlined, very, very natural tones. And when we see this palette, we really look at this as kind of our leader, and then you would pull in some of those really unique pieces that, you know, you get the inspiration from fashion, like a really bold pattern somewhere, a really unique piece of art, and so on and so forth, so that, you know, our base is super timeless, but we have a little bit more flexibility in our other venues.
Color and material. So we always look at what colors the leading agencies are naming their official colors of 2020, and then we look at which materials are also rising to the top alongside these colors. So in the world of color, the picks from the top color agencies are leaning all towards greens and blues, as you can see here. We do have Benjamin Moore, the outlier here, holding on to that blush pink. I mean, we all still secretly love it, but, you know, maybe it's time to let it go. I don't know. So we're reading a lot about how these colors, specifically these greens and these blues, are all about a fresh start in a new decade and really tying us and bringing us back to nature.
It almost reminds me of that Snickers Super Bowl commercial where like the world's angry and everything's kind of crazy, and then they feed the world a Snickers, and it's like, oh, that's
fine.
So this is the Snickers of
green
the design
and blue
industry.
everywhere. It'll fix everything. I love that.
Also, we're kind of looking at our materials here. We are seeing such a wonderful resurgence of some of our materials that we may have lost for a little while, like terrazzo, because terrazzo kind of really supports that wabi-sabi idea that, you know, pieces of things really help to create a whole story. Clean woods, mixing our metals, you know, just because we have one tone, we can do all of them, different ones, and really exploring kind of some of that finish because it gives depth. If we're not creating spaces that have a ton of different colors, we can create depth through some of that contrast. Also, hand-dyed natural materials, those biomaterials, the stoneware, some of those biophilic light fixtures. I think it's called the mushloom.
Yes, the mushloom.
The mushloom, and it's a light fixture that's actually made out of mushrooms, and they grow it, and it's really natural, and it's a really fun story element. I think that's one hotel in Central Park, perhaps. Brooklyn Bridge.
It's really cool. They also sell it in a kit, or at least they used to, where you can actually grow your own shade for the lamp. So you like grow your own mushroom or I don't know. It's really cool.
That's what I need at my desk.
So it adds a little experience. Yeah. It's really cool. So next, in our Want to Watch section, we love to spotlight somebody who we think has the commercial and mass market appeal to kind of win over America. So for this edition of our forecast, we wanted to highlight Shannon Maldonado. She is the founder of a retail concept shop called Yowie, which is in Philadelphia, and she was the interior designer of Ethel's Club, which is New York's first co-working / well-being / social space designed specifically for people of color. We actually spotlighted them in our last hospitality forecast, so have a look back, but they just opened, so we have more of their designs here. And then she also did the design work for the Deacon Hotel. But we just think she's one to watch. She's designing some really buzzy and exciting spaces, so we're looking forward to seeing what she does next.
And people who are designing with a broader picture in mind also is really inspirational.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
All right, our global movements, which is the last kind of our influence. What is happening in the world impacts design. Designers have the opportunity to be proactive instead of reactive. So understanding kind of things that are coming down the road and how we can prevent them, and seeing the need for sustainability and well-being and things like that, where we can kind of really pre-design for that, making sure spaces are really thoughtfully curated and their core focus is really on that human connection. It's really about whether it's a solo traveler or it is an entire family, your perennial squad. It's all about their opportunity to connect as a human to the space.
I love that. So our first idea to explore is the idea of curation. Too little time, too many choices. All of this has brought on this influx of these curation services. So these are things that we're already seeing and we're all already using. So like these news aggregator websites, filters your news. Spotify even has playlists that you can create that they ask you a few questions and they create a custom playlist for your pet.
For your pet. Tears for Fears, that would definitely be my cat.
Yeah, 100%. We know about the styling subscription boxes. You answer a few questions. They send you clothes they think you'll like, the meal delivery kits, even for money management. So how can your brand, your hotel brand, curate a product or service to cut through the noise in the world of hospitality? We find this question very inspiring, and we're looking forward to answering ourselves, but seeing also how others in the industry are looking to curation.
I love the cut through the noise. Those are a really good phrase.
Okay, and then human connection. So our devices have impacted our ability to speak to each other without a screen in between, as we're doing now. We all have a screen between us. It's the only way we can talk. But there's opportunities to create these new ways for people to truly come together in person. And we're looking to hospitality to really kind of lead the way, to lead the charge, create together spaces, as we really all try to become just a little bit more human in 2020.
My little sister walks around with her iPhone like on a strap around her neck, and my father now says his daughter is actually an iPhone. And then who has a Carlin, but that's how it goes. But some of the things that kind of support that are the idea of the day pass with the hotel, even some of those hostels, ways that you're kind of forced, or like rooms where there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Digital detox.
Love it. Digital detox room, 2020. Love it.
You heard it here first, guys.
So we want to thank everyone so much for taking the time to tune in to the webinar today. We do have time for a few questions, and if you have a question, please feel free to use the Zoom chat feature to send it through. We'll take a second to give everybody a minute. Okay, so it looks like someone's asking if the luxury trains exist in the U.S. So this is a great question. I actually spent a lot of time digging into this, and it seems that there's one that may be starting called, I think it's called, off the top of my head, like American Trains. Their website had barely any information, so I think that they're really going through kind of a rebrand and a revamp. I'm definitely going to be tracking it because I'm personally curious. But it seems like there's a lot of opportunity in the States to bring this idea here. It exists in Europe, it exists in South America. I know we're seeing it in other places, but we know we have like these beautiful existing infrastructure. We have these rail lines, these railroads are intact. We just need the train. And there's beautiful, like on the West Coast, we know that there's beautiful, beautiful scenery. So we think that there's a huge opportunity for this, and we're excited about the possibility.
There's a really innocent romance, too, about traveling on a train.
So nostalgic.
It's so nostalgic. It's really, my Gammy, when she came down from New Jersey, refused to fly. Maybe she's inspired by Greta. Who knows? She was
Greta has Gammy's number. Yes.
But she traveled by train just because she missed that. She chose to travel by train just because she wanted that experience. So I think it just supports everything we're kind of looking towards, and it would be super exciting.
It would be.
Super exciting. Alrighty, so we got another one. How to design for families or kids without alienating those without kids. This is a really good one. This is a really good one. So I think the way we're kind of looking at this one is also making sure that we have spaces for adults and programming that's kind of balanced. So we're not creating spaces just for children. They're just spaces that have something that kind of answers to their needs. So perhaps, again, it's a fitness center, but we also offer something for the kiddos. But maybe you consider having some spaces that are kind of, after hours. It's no kiddies.
Yeah, something that's, like you said, multi-purpose that can change over to accommodate whoever is using the space.
Super flexible. Even if we have like a work lounge in somewhere that's kind of family and kid oriented, perhaps the kids room is located there and there's a lot of visibility, but it is kind of segmented off
a little bit.
Yeah.
And the other thing here is we're seeing that these millennial parents are really wanting to do things as a whole family. So it's not necessarily like it's going to be something just for the kids, because there has to be something there for the parents. So I think that also lends itself to a broader audience of people who don't have a kid with them at all.
Absolutely. And the parents now are definitely different than, I think, kind of our parents, where, I vacationed in a motorhome. Thank you, Kevin. Not by choice. But now parents are just kind of looking at it from a different way, that if they want this cool experience, they don't want to force their daughter hiking into the woods.
I want your family to secretly adopt me.
No,
like,
God.
I secretly think that needs to happen. Oh, my gosh. Okay, we have another one about within hospitality, if there is anyone who's really going after zero waste. We did come across in our research a hotel called Akaira. It's in Bangkok in Thailand, and they are the first hotel in Asia that went after full zero waste. If you look at the digital version of our forecast, you will see we did a spotlight feature on them. We just cut them out for time of the webinar, but we're talking about them now. But they're really eliminating all the single-use plastic within their toiletries. All of their food is served not in plastic, so in things that can be in regular dishes, I guess you would say, that can be fully washed and reused. So they also have like sustainable group activities, like they have programming that's cleaning up trash on the beach, things like that. So We are starting to see it pop up in hospitality, but not many are saying that they're a full zero waste hotel. But I think we can expect to see that pop up for sure.
It's super interesting. We have one of the zero waste shops that just opened kind of up by us, and the owner of the shop is completely zero waste, and she is consistently sharing on her media platforms how she's doing the zero waste thing, and it's really, really interesting.
It's super cool. It's a really, really interesting trend to watch for sure.
Alrighty. Is there a market that thinks professionally managed home sharing lacks the charm of regular Airbnb? Okay. I mean, that's a good question.
I think so it's really interesting. Like, we've been exploring this division between anybody can really list on Airbnb. Some are independent homeowners that are renting out a room or their home. And now we have some, like the Stay Alfreds of the world, that are professionally managed. So we're seeing this shift. I think there's definitely a market that thinks that the professionally managed home sharing lacks charm, but I think there's a solution for them too, because as we see this division, as some become more professionally managed, which there's absolutely a market for, some will become even more casual, like straight up couch surfing. So I think there's a market for both, and it'll be interesting to see this division become more defined.
And it also really helps because there may be certain groups of people who want the Airbnb experience but don't really trust other people's things. And, you know, not to say that that's right or wrong, but there is kind of some division with that. So offering the diversity and the different opportunities is something that's really, really clever. And as we saw, those dispersed hotels really kind of help to answer that beautiful balance.
For sure. Okay, we have another question. What was our favorite hotel that we came across during this past research for this volume?
I can think of pictures.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think we might agree, but I loved the Kex. It's K-E-X. Yes. The Kex Hostel in Portland. It's beautiful. It's sort of like an upscale, like social style hostel. It's designed to appeal to travelers, but also to locals. So they really want it to be like a community space. It's beautifully designed. You can stay in a shared room, a hostel room, for maybe around $30 a night, or you can pay a more traditional hotel rate and stay in your own private room. So they are catering to everybody.
It's an old school coffee shop that you can sleep in. Like, you can stay here.
It's totally what it looks like.
The vibe is so beautiful.
It's really cool. And the group that did it is out of Iceland, so you have just that edginess. It's super cool. Yes.
Kind of super cool.
We featured them in the full version of the digital forecast, so take a look at your full version or check out their website. They're awesome.
I like the Shanola too. I think that's absolutely beautiful. There's some of the really beautiful way that they carry their merchandising through.
Yes, they do that great. I love them too. Okay, well, I don't believe we have any questions.
No, and we made it literally to 60 minutes. Go us.
We did. Well, thanks everyone for your questions. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar. Please reach out to us if you did not receive the full digital version of our forecast, and we will make sure that you receive it. And thank you again for your time and for your questions.
Yeah, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I know I'm a day early, but
Thursday is close enough.
Thursday is close enough. Thank you all so much for your time, and we look forward to next time.
Thanks, everyone.